What exactly is an overriding interest and why does it bind a buyer? We're going to be breaking down this land law theory today, step by step, so let's just get straight into it.
So what are overriding interests? When the Land Registration Act of 1925 was introduced, one of its goals was to create a complete record of title. But in practice, that ideal was undermined by something called overriding interests. They're a special class of rights that can bind a buyer even though they don't appear on the register. Sounds dangerous, right? A buyer can pay full price for a property, have it registered in their name, and still be legally bound by someone else's hidden rights. This is why overriding interests have been called a blot on the system. Then along came the 2002 update. This was an update, but not a full fix. The LRA 2002 tried to clean things up. It reduced the number of overriding interests, but it didn't get rid of them altogether. Instead, the Act splits them into two categories: interests that override on first registration, and then interests that override on subsequent dealings with registered land. You need to know that this split exists, but ultimately the golden rule for you to remember is that some interests can still bind a buyer even though they're not on the register. There are two main overriding interests to worry about. The first one is short leases. Now, we've already heard that leases for 7 years or more need to be registered. However, if it's less than 7 years, they usually don't need to be registered, but they can still override a buyer's title. That means a buyer could legally have to honour a short lease that they didn't know about. That could be a real pain if you're planning on moving into your new home and suddenly you've got someone living in your spare room. Talking of someone living in your spare room, we also have interests of persons in actual occupation. If someone is already living at the property, but their name isn't on the register, say an adult child of the owners, they might still have a legal right to stay. These rights can override the buyer's interest, especially if the occupier isn't identified before the sale completes. So, how can we uncover these overriding interests? This is where the conveyancer really earns their keep. When acting for a buyer, it's their job to uncover these hidden rights before it's too late. This is mainly done through searches and pre-contract inquiries, which we'll explore more later in the course. But for now, there's two key steps. Firstly, we need to tell the buyer to inspect the property. You can't spot an unregistered occupier from an office. The buyer should visit the property and look out for signs of someone else living there. For example, an adult child, a lodger, an ex-partner, or even a wizard under the stairs. Then we're going to check the Property Information Form, PIF. We're going to look carefully at the seller's answer to question 11 of the PIF. This asks the seller whether anyone not named on the title lives at the property. If the answer is yes, the buyer's conveyancer must follow up. The occupier must sign an occupier's consent clause, confirming that they'll move out on completion and won't claim any rights over the property. Overriding interests may be invisible on the register, but they're definitely not in real life. Another thing to watch out for are covenants. Covenants are legal promises made in a deed, often during the sale of land, that control how the land is used. They are created by express agreement between the parties and must be in writing. There are two main types. Restrictive covenants, which prohibit actions, for example, no building without consent, and positive covenants, which require the landowner to do something, for example, maintain the fence. The key difference is that restrictive covenants can bind future owners of the land, if properly protected, whereas positive covenants generally do not unless specific steps are taken, for example, using estate rent charges. Identifying and understanding these covenants is crucial in conveyancing, as they can significantly affect a buyer's rights, responsibilities, and future plans for the property.
I hope you found that video really useful. It's just a small clip from a huge library of CILEX foundation level resources that we have available to any of the students who are studying with us. You can head to our website to find out more about the CILEX foundation course. The link will be in the bio. Or if you're already studying through CILEX, you can sign up for one of our free mocks. Again, the link will be in the bio. I'll see you in the next video.